Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be sharing with you a book haul. So these are the books that I've been acquiring over the past month or two, and in my last book haul you guys said that you wanted to find out how I buy books for very cheap or how I find deals on new books. So I thought that I would show you guys exactly how I do that by actually going through and purchasing books and showing you the deals that I found. But before we get into the haul, this video is sponsored by Book of the Month. So if you haven't already heard, Book of the Month is a super popular and fast-growing online book service for readers. Their mission is to promote new and emerging authors and help readers discover books that they love. Their team vets hundreds of books each month and gives readers their choice from a curated selection of new and early release titles, so you can spend more time reading and less time researching. Book of the Month is risk-free and you can skip any month, anytime, and you will not be charged. Plus, they have the best price for new release hardcover fiction, and you can get your very first book for just $9.99 with the code NEWBOOKS. Like I said before, I subscribed to Book of the Month for years, and I always found so many amazing books through them. A lot of my all-time favorite books I found through Book of the Month, and they always have a very wide range of selections with their monthly picks as well as the additional add-on books. They have sent me their January selections. We have Outlawed by Anna North. This feminist spin on a Western stars a gang of lovable outcasts who rob and plot in search of a better life. The Survivors by Jane Harper, which is a mystery about an eerie seaside town that is burdened by secrets, storms, and an unsolved murder. The Prophet by Robert Jones Jr., which is a lyrical literary fiction debut about an endangered love between two enslaved men. The Removed by Brandon Hobson, which is a genre-bending look at tragedies and legacies that impact one Cherokee family. And then lastly, The Dating Plan by Sarah Desai, which is a romance about two people who become fake engaged to please their families, who of course end up falling in love. If I were to choose one of these as my January book, it would probably be one of these three. These three are just the ones that sound the most interesting to me. I will leave a link as well as the coupon code down below for Book of the Month. So now for my book haul, I'm gonna start with the books that I got for a deal. There's a lot of ways that I find deals on books, and I'll probably end up making some sort of all of the ways that I find book deals, but my number one way is Depop. I usually have an Amazon wish list that has all of the books that I'm currently interested in purchasing, and I will just spend 15 minutes searching on Depop for every single one of those books. And if I do that every single morning, I usually always find them. I'll show you guys all the books I bought from Depop within the past month. I didn't buy all of these at once. I usually will go on there, find one book, buy it, the next week I'll find another book. So the first two that I found were Desperate Measures and Learn My Lesson by Katie Robert. I did not own any Katie Robert books, which is an actual sin. You guys know she's my favorite romance author, and I was screaming when I found these on the app. Now I'm very, very excited to finally own my first Katie Robert books. So if you don't know, these are the first two books in her Wicked Villains series, which is a romantic erotica Disney villain retellings where the princesses have romances with the villains. And they're very dark, very steamy, and I love this series so much, so I'm very excited to finally own them. I also just really love the covers, so I eventually want to collect this whole series, but I'm really happy that I found the first two books on there. So the next book that I found on Depop is Nightshine by Tessa Gratton. This is her newest release. I believe this came out in 2020, and it just sounds like everything. So Tessa Gratton is another one of my favorite authors. The way that she described it was a dark, queer, Howl's Moving Castle. In the vast palace of the Empress lives an orphan girl called Nothing. She slips within the shadows of the court unseen except by her true friend, Prince Kieran, heir to the throne. When Kieran is kidnapped, only Nothing and the prince's bodyguards suspect that Kieran may have been taken by the sorceress who eats girls, a powerful woman who has plagued the land for decades. Sounds amazing. I'm so excited to read this, and again, I was really excited to find it on Depop because it was pretty expensive, full price. Also, another really funny thing about Depop is that I always find people that I know, as sellers, obviously because the book community is so small in general. The amount of times that I've bought a book and then realized that the seller is somebody that I know or somebody that I'm aware of is too many. Okay, so the next book I got was Beyond the Ruby Veil by Mara Fitzgerald. This is another book that was a 2020 release, sounded amazing to me, but it's just just super expensive. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I feel like books within the past year with the pandemic and everything the prices have skyrocketed. They're just so expensive. And I totally get it with like the pandemic and book sales are down. Like, I understand the business behind why prices are up. It just hurts my heart to spend the money. This book sounds amazing. Oh my god, I didn't even notice. There's like character artwork and a book plate. This must have come from a book subscription box. This is a queer YA fantasy. I believe that it's sapphic. From what I know, it has a very like morally gray main character who's maybe a little bit villainous. All my buzzwords. The next book that I got on Depop is Legendborn by Tracy Dion. This is another 2020 YA release. It is a Arthurian legend mixed with secret societies, dark academia, and I've been hearing amazing things about this. Like, everyone is giving this 5 stars and loving it and saying that it is just so good, and I really love Arthurian legends, but I don't think I've even found an Arthurian retelling that I really like. So maybe this could be the one. Okay, I have 2 more from Depop, and then I'm gonna tell you guys how much money I saved, and it's gonna blow your mind. The next one I got on Depop is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a horror book by an Indigenous author about these 4 men who, on a hunting trip, killed an animal that I think was like an indigenous spirit, and now it has come back to get revenge on them. Another book I've been hearing amazing things about. I wanted to read it last year and I just didn't get around to it. And then the last book that I got off Depop is Transcendent Kingdom by Yagasi. Wait a minute. Last time I talked about this author, somebody corrected my pronunciation.
Hi everyone.
Oh, here's her. Here she is. Yagasi. Yagasi. Y'all been letting me pronounce this wrong for like 5 years. Oh my god, I'm embarrassed. Transcendent Kingdom by Yagasi. This book sounds so good. So I really loved her book Homegoing, and from what I know about this book, I believe it is about a woman who had a very rough life and she is dealing with a lot of grief, and she is a scientist, so she comes from a very like scientific mind and background, but I think that in her grief she finds herself falling more into religion. So it's kind of about the contrast between science and religion, which just sounds very interesting to me, and I've also been hearing so much praise about it. And this is totally an aesthetics-based thing, but like, this color pink is my favorite color in the world, so I don't know, I have a problem where like I will buy pink books even if I'm not interested in them. Like, I'm just drawn to the color pink. But luckily, this sounds amazing. I'm gonna let you guys know how much money I saved buying these books off of Depop. $136. Like, literally, I saved $136 just searching for these books on Depop instead of buying them from Amazon. So yeah, that's normally how I find inexpensive books. Also a lot of other ways, you know, like thrift books and then used bookstores. But Depop is honestly like a godsend. I almost didn't want to like share about it because I'm like, oh my god, now there's gonna be like a lot of competition, but I want to help you guys out. So there you go. That's how I save money on books. The next 3 were all gifts that I got over Christmas. The first one, I have no idea who it's from. There was no note. It also, I don't think was from my Amazon wish list because it was still on my wish list when I got it. So it's very bizarre to me how this came into my possession. If you sent this to me, please let me know so I can thank you, because I'm so excited to read it. And that is The Deal with the Elf King by Elise Kova. This is I don't know if this is YA or adult because this author has written both, but this is a fantasy romance. The tagline is so me. It says the elves come for 2 things, war and wives. In both cases, they come for death. So basically, the main female character has to wed the Elf King. And yeah, it sounds great. This cover, the first time I saw this cover, I was in love with this book. It sounds like my kind of thing. And then the next 2 were both from Mesho. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But thank you so much. So they got me Lady Hotspur by Tessa Gratton. This is the companion to The Queens of Innis Lear, which is one of my favorite books. I just realized I have 2 Tessa Gratton books in this haul. First book was a fantasy King of Ines Lear retelling. This one is a Shakespeare Henry IV retelling, and it takes place in the same world as the first book, but hundreds of years later. And then the other book that they got me is Ringmaster by Brianna Hale, which is a circus romance that sounds so good, and I've been dying to read. The next two, oh, these are another way that I find books for cheaper. I don't love to buy books from Amazon. I try to avoid it as much as I can, but I do use the Amazon Marketplace. So both of these books are ones that I found for very cheap on the Amazon Marketplace. The first one is City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. This one sounds so good. I've heard people compare it to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It says that it is glamour, sex, and adventure set in the 1940s New York theater world. Now 89 years old and telling her story at last, Vivian recalls how the events of those years altered the course of her life. So yeah, okay, that definitely gives me Evelyn Hugo vibes. And then the other book that I got off the Amazon Marketplace is The Winter of the Witch. In my TBR, I just kept calling it The Winter Witch. But it's The Winter of the Witch. This is the third and final book in the Winter Night trilogy. I actually yesterday finished the second book, The Girl in the Tower, and we did our live show. So now within the next week or two, I will be starting this book. I'm loving this trilogy so much. I gave the first book 4 stars. The second book I gave 5 stars. So I'm really excited to go into the final book and see how the story concludes. And then, okay, I have 4 books left. These are all ones that I bought full price. So I got The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. This is a horror about Portal World. It's about these 2 people who find a portal in the wall to this really disturbing world, and I think they get trapped there. I don't know, sounds like my kind of thing. I'm really excited to read this. Then I have 2 romance books that I read in December, and I gave them both 5 stars, so I wanted physical copies. The first one is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert, and then Zenny by Rebecca Weatherspoon. Both of these are actually fake dating plots. Zenny is a fake marriage, and Danny Brown is fake dating, and I loved both of these books so much. These are 2 of my favorite romance authors. And then the very last book in this haul is Hench by Natalie Zena Walshgotts. And this basically follows a woman who is like the equivalent of like a receptionist for supervillains. So she's like a henchwoman, but she does like the boring jobs for villains. And because of something going wrong with a hero, she ends up getting fired. So she now has like a really big hatred for superheroes, and she realizes that all of the data that she's been working with the villains, she has enough information to take the heroes down. It says, by tallying up the human cost these caped forces of nature wreak upon the world, she discovers that the line between good and evil is mostly marketing. It really reminds me of like the plot line from Marvel where people turn against the heroes because of all the casualties that they cause. So yeah, this sounds really great. I don't even know if I can hold all of these in frame, but these are all of the books that I have purchased and received recently. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!